All right. Shalom. First and foremost, I want to give call Allah Yahweh Bashim Yahweh Shai. That's all praises to the Most High God. In the name of His only begotten Son, who the world ignorantly calls Jesus Christ. It's your brother Tazapanya Banya Howard, Shikari Chicago Sec, coming back at you through the inspiration and power of Yahweh Bashim Yahweh Shai with another edifying video. Um, this article you can find on AfricaResource.com, and it's entitled The Ladindo Moors, the Jews of Cape Verde, the Guyana Rivers, and Gulf of Biafra, right? So we're going to get into the article, and then I'm going to skip to the scriptures to show the parallel in between what happened to us in this time to the Ladindo Moors, and also parallel that with what happened in the time of the Maccabees, okay? Because it's a very strong parallel, man, and it's a testament that lets us know that we were a part of that Moorish Empire, man. And no, sidebar, all the Israelites were not all Moors were not just Israelites, okay? And actually, within the article is going to bring that out. So, without further ado, the decline of the Moors. The Moors of the Iberian Peninsula suffered great and incalculable losses when their centuries-old rule was brought to a violent end in Spain in 1492, following the loss of the Caliphate of Granada. Beginning from the same 1492 in Spain and 1497 in Portugal, the exile of the original Dark Sons was inaugurated. The conquering European armies were filled with a strange bloodlust and a incurable pathological jealousy of the Moors. It was their simple wish to dispossess the Moorish owners of the land, confiscate all their properties, and enslave their bodies. It was easy and simple for them because they fight for Iberia and had been drawn across racial lines. So-called white Asiatic Europeans, who was Esau, versus so-called black and brown Africans and Afro-Arabians. So you had the so-called, they calling us Africans in here, but I would say it's a fair term to use because it wasn't just Israelites. They were a part of the Moorish Empire. You had us, then you had Hamites, who are also a part of the Moorish Empire. Then you also had Arabians, who are Ishmaelites, that were a part of the Moorish Empire. Now, you do have a certain demographic of Israelites, by blood, right, that was following Islam, Arabic traditions, you know, and I'm pretty sure that it was a certain demographic of our people that was also following after them damn Hamites, man. We always had a problem with lusting over them damn Hamites and always trying to be around them, man, especially messing with their women. So that's not a far-fetched concept either, right? But it just goes to show that all the Moors were not the same, man. It was three distinct people, three distinct nations, okay? But anyway, New World Order. The Moors occupied the landmass where Lisbon is currently situated, and in their time, they called it Alishbuna. They had ruled for 400 years since 700 AD, only losing their grip on power in 1147 AD. From that date until 1249, when Christian crusaders conquered Algarve, the Moors lost land and authority before the hordes of inner Europe. Following the complete conquest of Portugal in 1249 and the capture of Algarve, the Crusaders gradually tightened the noose around the Moor's neck, literally speaking. So it was Moors getting hung, man. Okay. Discrimination got worse. Ordinary folks were constantly harassed. Moors were under unrelenting suspicion of disloyalty, insurrection, and rebellion. They were imposed on with excessive taxes. Their cultural rights were abridged. Language was restricted. Political and business space became increasing non-accessible. All right, remember that. Finally, the conquest of Granada in 1492 by the Spanish branch of the Crusaders, all hell was let loose on the hapless Moors living then in Spain and in Portugal. The Crusaders decided that the fact of being a Moor was criminal enough in itself, and so Moors were required to symbolically renounce their heritage and culture. They were required to adopt new identity as Christians called conversos. Sometimes these new Christians were called Morenos, a racist term which connoted a pig or something unclean, right? So basically it was we were going by we was identifying as Moors at that time, right? And the white man, Esau, came in there, waged war with us, overcame us, right? And said, y'all shouldn't be calling yourself Moors anymore. All that, although that was not our real authentic identity, that was something that we identified with at the time. So now we're going to go into the book of the Maccabees and see the same thing happening. So let me get this right quick. This is the book of Second Maccabees, and I want to I'll start from verse 1. This is Second Maccabees, chapter 6, verse 1. Not long after this, sent an old man of Athens to compel the Jews to depart from their laws of their fathers and not to live after the laws of God. Okay. Verse 2. And to pollute also the temple in Jerusalem, and to call it in the temple of Jupiter Olympus, and that in Garzim of Jupiter, the defender of strangers, as they did desire that dwelt in the place. Verse 3. The coming in of this mischief was sore and grievous to the people. So this is talking about the Hellenization of the Jews in the time of the Maccabean revolt. And at the same time that all this mischief was going on, it was grievous to our people. It was also grievous upon the demographic of our peoples that were considered as the Moors, man. Within that time, the same thing had happened before, and we're going into it now. Verse 4: For the temple was filled with riot and reveling by the Gentiles, who dallied with harlots and had to do with women within the circuit of the holy places. So they was, having sexual relations within our temples, man. Okay. And besides that, brought in things that were not lawful, pigs and things of that nature. And you just heard that they also when they enslaved the Moors, man, they called us pigs, man. Basically second class citizens in a place that was ours, man. Okay. Called us Morenos. But anyway, verse 5. The altar was filled with profane things that the law forbiddeth. Verse 6. Neither was it lawful for a man to keep Sabbath days or ancient feasts, or to profess himself to be called a Jew. Right? So let's go back to the article and let me bring that out again. Here we go. The Crusaders decided that the fact of being a Moor was criminal enough in itself, and so Moors were required to symbolically renounce their heritage and culture, man. Now, although being a Moor, was not our real heritage and culture, that's what we identified with at the time. So in the same way that Esau ransacked Jerusalem back in the time of the Maccabean revolt, he did the same thing to our people that were living in Portugal and Spain. Okay, they were required to adopt a new identity as Christians called conversos. And within the time of the Maccabean revolt, the new identity they wanted us to take on was basically us being Greeks. And this was our conversion into becoming Israelites in the Gentile state of mind, man. All right. Sometimes the new Christians were called Morenos, a racist term which connoted a pig or something unclean. Okay, conversos were like second-class Christians of Portugal. They who would not convert and accept their official second-class status as a decultured animal were then forcibly expelled either as prisoners, slaves, or refugees, right? Okay, the notorious institution known as the Inquisition is talking about the Spanish Inquisition, right? A system of spies, secret police, tortures, confessions, and swift executions was established. It was responsible for the death of millions of Moors all over Europe, but especially in the Iberian Peninsula. Okay? It lasted for hundreds of years, torturing, maiming, and killing all real and suspected enemies of the European royalty. Its bloodlust, sadi- sadism, and cruelty are now live in infamy. The Moors it did not kill or maim, it sold as slaves. It so happened that in 1496 through 1497, Portuguese King Jaio II and Manuel I hoarded hundreds and thousands of Jews, sent them into exile on the West African coast of Guyana and Biafra, okay, and on the islands of Cape Verde and Sao Tome into a life of perpetual slavery. These peculiar branch of Iberian Moorish Hebrews were called the Ladindos. So it's making a distinction. This is not talking about those Arabs that were a part of the Moorish that were a part of the Moorish Empire. Neither is it talking about the Hamites that was a part of the Moorish Empire. It's really focusing on the so-called Ladindos who we know that are Hebrews, man, that are Jews. Okay, the Israelites, man. These are the Israelites that was a part of the Moorish Empire. You know. Okay, so Ladindo means Latinized Negroes. It was a racist term used for the black Jews of Iberia who were soon deported to African islands and coastal settlements and used as the first slaves in the sugar plantations. See Afu al-Fra Muhammad Sharif bin Farad, or Farid, a continuity of the 19th century jihad movements of Western Sudan. Sankor, Institute of Islamic African Studies, and then it gives you a link, right? So let's keep reading. According to Richard Loban, in his article "Jews in Cape Verde and on the Guyana Coast," paper presented at the University of Massachusetts, Dartmouth, February 11, 1996, Portuguese or Iberian Jews sometimes use this term to note that the social group which constituted a portion of early migrants to the Cape Verde Islands. Some reference use this term for the people and language of 16th and 17th century Sephardic Jews and Iberian Peninsula. The term Ladindo could also refer to baptized African slaves. Okay? In either case, the reference was often racist and derogatory and implied a lying, wandering, sneaky, and thieving group which was particularly untrustworthy. Exiled Moors, the Jews of Biafra. The Portuguese had followed the pursuit of their defeated Moorish foes right across the Straits of Gibraltar. Okay, I just butchered that word, but Salakia. The objective was to defeat the Moors in all of their land and seize it as Iberia had been seized. Following the path of Moorish network, the Portuguese had soon fallen on Cape Verde of the coast of West Africa, which they seized in the middle 15th century. Cape Verde was a halfway restocking station for the ancient Phoenicians. See, these are Hamites, man. Ancient Phoenicians, man. And their medieval Moorish successors on their voyages across the ocean toward the continent in the west, which later came to be known as the Americas and the Caribbeans. Having seized these people groups of islands, the Portuguese continued their raids on the Moorish lands of the Gulf of Guyana and Biafra. Most coastal communities were sacked and burnt. Strategic locations on the coast, such as the Elmina Castle area and Cape Coast, Porto Novo area, and Dahomey, and were occupied and declared to be under the realm of the King of Portugal. Islands such as Lagos, Escarvos, Fernando Po, and Sao Tome were colonized that early in time. Okay, so you know, let's see. I think I got a little bit more because I'm on 5%. So I'm going to read a little bit more and then we're going to end the video. States and kingdoms of coast of Guyana and Biafra were harassed by the martyring Portuguese crusaders come slave raiders. Their acts of depredations were vigorously challenged by many kings and queens of those coastal states. One of the more famous incidents involved the war between Portuguese crusaders and Queen Nzinga over the former's incessant slave raiding activities. The Portuguese crown had soon declared a monopoly of trade over the rich Moorish territories newly acquired off of the coast of Guyana and Biafra. The crown viewed the unwanted Moorish Jews and Muslims as cheap and easy labor to develop these newly acquired territories. It was a master stroke, getting rid of blackamoors and getting rich while doing it. Between 1450 and 1500, Portuguese record detail the deportation and enslavement of more than 500,000 Moorish Jews to the islands off the Gulf of Guyana and Biafra. Many of these were children who had been stolen and separated from their parents, man. And that goes into that curse, man. You will have sons and daughters, but you won't enjoy them. That's in Deuteronomy 28. According to the article in the New York Times, September 24th, 2004, by Edward Rothstein, the Inquisition played a more central role in the later Jewish journeys. Jews entering Portugal after being expelled from Spain in 1492 were heavily taxed. If Jews could not pay, their sons ages 2 through 10 were enslaved and sent to Sao Tome and Portuguese outposts and worked in sugar fields. Sao Tome was one of the more infamous slave islands of the Atlantic that grew fabulously rich off the sugar trade. Okay, so it's a lot more to go, but as you can see, we're on 4%. So I think I'm going to end the video right here. But as you can see, man, it's this is a historic reference, and we have generational curses, man. It happened in the time that we were a part of the Moorish Empire, and it also happened in the time of Maccabees, man. The same things, keep taking place over and over again, man. It's all because we didn't keep the law, statutes, and commandments of the Most High, ultimately. So with that, I want to give call, hello, Yahweh, Bashim, Yahweh Shai, and say Shalom.